All praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Hawashai, Ba'ashem Korash, the blessed today, legend apostles of Great Stone. Shalom to the elect, pushing this word in truth and in sincerity, with the hope of receiving mercy of Yahweh, Ba'ashem Hawashai. Yahweh is the name of the Heavenly Father. Yahushai is the name of His only begotten Son. We so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans are the Israelites according to the prophecies that are written in the Scriptures. I want to make it known that the RFID microchip is the MOTB. The serpent juice is the precursor to the MOTB. Yahushai, whom dwelling at called Jesus, is about to make His return upon the earth to deliver His elect and to pour out judgment, as it is written. So, I want to go straight into this lesson concerning the lack of bread. And this is not going to be a long lesson, just showing you what's taking place out here in the small island of Jamaica. So this is Ezekiel 5 verse 16. When I shall send upon them the evil arrows of famine, which shall be for their destruction, and which I will send to destroy you, and I will increase the famine upon you, and will break your staff of bread. See, have a lot of people, due to even the jobs that them feel, they are so proud, because they can't see themselves in a state of want, because there are people buy grocery for a month, or fortnight, or weekly. Some people are hand to mouth day by day. But things are get so drastic in which you can't have the money and the food is not there on the shelves. What are you going to do in times like those? These are the times that we are coming into. Regardless if you want to believe us, yes or no, these things are going to transpire before your eyes, y'all. So, let's listen.
Topic lately has been the possibility of a food shortage. That was our poll question for this evening, and we're also going to be talking about it with our analyst David Rose tonight. Welcome back to the show, David.
Night, Kalila.
So you did touch on this topic briefly last week. What's driving the concern about the possibility of a food shortage that could hit us here in the Caribbean?
So, just to put things into context, I don't know if my camera can't see there's a camera, but that's fine. So, to put things into context, right? So, the world uses fertilizer to increase production yield. So, when the farmer plants his crops, he uses fertilizer, not always the kind that comes from an animal, but urea and nitrogen-rich fertilizer to increase their production yield. Now, similar to the 2022 Russia-Ukraine situation whereby fertilizer availability was impacted, you have a similar situation now whereby with the Strait of Hormuz, what has happened is that oil is used in the production of the nitrogen and fertilizer production process. So what has happened is that about 1/3 of the world's fertilizer supply has been impacted as a result of this whole situation, because I believe it's Qatar that's responsible for about less than 30% of the fertilizer input based on their production of oil. So what is happening right now is that farmers are hit on two extreme ends. So the diesel that they use to power their vehicles, tractors, and other pieces of equipment on their farm, that's going up. So the cost to reap your crops is going up. And on the flip side, you have opposite part of the spectrum, which is you have higher costs with respect to the fertilizer, which you are using in yield. Now, farmers want to choose, am I going to harvest less, or am I going to use this fertilizer? Some farmers might use alternative, the all natural can come in from an animal, like a pig, for example, but in other instances, they're just going to cut back on fertilizer use. And what that does is the yield or the amount that you get from that harvest is actually going to be lower. And we should also recall the fact that it's not just a case of fertilizer also going up alone in that perspective. You're also looking at the fact that the input costs on grain and other commodities that's used to grow livestock like cows and chickens is also going up. So it's not just a situation whereby you're having higher costs on fertilizer alone, but also on the inputs that are used to grow animals that we consume for meat.
So David, I'm seeing a couple of comments here, right? And I want you to address these. So Ryan says, I'm not worried because we can grow our own food in Jamaica. For people living in urban centers can grow starch in pots. The only thing they can't do is grow pig, chicken in town yards. And then somebody else, Rolanda, says, we just need to plant more and be prepared just in case the food shortage should hit. But you're making the case that the inputs are just as important and those are being hit. So the fertilizer costs, for example.
Correct. And don't forget the grain and other commodities that are used to grow the chicken and cows and other animals.
So even though we can farm here and grow our own foods, the inputs are making it much more expensive, which could in turn lead to the shortage that we're discussing.
So it's not just a shortage in terms of not growing enough product, but also just the yield. So think of farming as a constant cycle. In this particular cycle, you grow one particular type of cash crop, for example. But the next crop cycle, you go to something that's more resistant or so on. Now, in the case of Jamaican context, to be specific, we have two extremes right now. So St. Elizabeth, St. Mary, some of the parts were impacted by Hurricane Melissa. The inputs or the crops that were being grown, they were destroyed. So, you've seen a temporary increase in food prices, which has relatively stabilized as we've seen return.
So you hear them say, temporary. That is what them believe. But we know better. And why I'm so confident in what I'm saying is because Yahweh Shem Yahushai had declared these things aforetime. When you read in Matthew 24, when he lists all various things that will transpire according to the scriptures, war, rumors of wars, he may mention that you got famines. But as we have said, a lot of people them not believe in the scriptures. Them tell the scriptures as a fairy tale book. And as I said, life will get more difficult for a lot of people. Financial instability is not around the corner. It's right here. And it's going to get worse. Why they could have used 10,000 full up my tank. No, 10,000 can't fill up my tank anymore. By next month, it's going to get worse. And this is how things are just transpire gradually worse and worse and worse. Because the collapse is coming on. And the thing where people don't understand, this collapse is engineered. So let me go for this precept. This is Haggai 1 verse 5, and I'm going to close out on this. It said, now therefore, thus saith Yahweh of hosts, consider your ways. Ye have sown much, and bring in little. Ye eat, but ye have not enough. Ye drink, but ye are not filled with drink. Ye clothe you, but there is none warm. And ye that earneth wages to put it into a bag with holes. Anything gonna start, see people are complaining yet. Anything gonna start complaining about anti-mouth and can't survive as yet. Don't worry. It's going to get worse, yo. The scripture said bag with holes. Remember, food price already high already. You already got through some form of inflation, and it's going to get worse. So I said I was going to make this video very long, just straight on to the point. So with that, I want to say Kalalal, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kodash, Shalom.